There have been suggestions, not least in the Times, that he may have been on the drink too often, and that's when he makes these comments. It's worth noting that he is also, and I'm entirely serious about this point, he is actually a shorter man than Putin.
Donald Trump has said he's ordered 2 nuclear submarines to be positioned in the appropriate regions as part of a row with former Russian President Dmitry Medvedev. The US president spoke to reporters a little earlier.
We just have to be careful. And a threat was made, and we didn't think it was appropriate, so I have to be very careful. So I do that on the basis of safety for our people. A threat was made by a former president of Russia, and we're going to protect our people.
So is this actually a cause for concern, or is it more business as usual? Well, Russia and international security expert Ewan Grant is here to explain. Good morning, Ewan.
Good morning to you, Jane, and thank you also for making the point about Donald Trump. His communication systems seem to be effective, but they are chaotic, yeah.
Absolutely.
Great way of putting it.
Yeah, we'll dig into that in a few minutes, Ewan, because I do want your thoughts on that too. But first, let's just give this a bit of context. What did Medvedev say that got Donald Trump so incensed?
Yeah, well, he's been raising the nuclear card many times, the former president, and there have been suggestions, not least in the Times, that he may have been on the drink too often, and that's when he makes these comments. It's worth noting that he is also, and I'm entirely serious about this point, he is actually a shorter man than Putin. And I think that may have been a factor in his appointment as the stand-in president. Basically, he warned the United States of Russia's still very considerable strategic nuclear capabilities and the fact that it can threat with things to back it up, particularly their incredibly sophisticated, if it works properly, launch systems, which are designed to launch even if the leadership is destroyed. You saw what the Israelis did in Tehran. So he's making a point, and Donald Trump, of course, reacts. He doesn't take these things lying down. It's as simple as that.
No, I'm intrigued, Ewan, as to actually how effective what Donald Trump has done is, though, because Michael Clark, the military analyst, was writing in the Times today that moving them nearer to Russia actually puts them in shallower waters, and that makes them easier to detect. So what is he gaining by moving them into this new position?
Yeah, well, that I would thank you again for mentioning that article. Michael Clark, really, everything he writes is worth following very closely. Yes, it's not a military threat. It's keeping the ante up ahead of the really big news, which will be this coming Friday the 8th, when the deadline for Putin to agree to a ceasefire arrives. And of course, that he's not going to meet that deadline. He's going to stall or ignore it. So it's what happens next. On the military side, this is diplomatic attention, and that's not a criticism of Trump, because there are so many types of submarine. And you have to consider what type of submarine is being referred to. And the phrase nuclear submarine is deliberately vague because, like the United Kingdom, all America's submarines are nuclear. But they have, in effect, 3 types. And the role of those types is very, very different. So the answer to your question is more information needed. And of course, given the nature of submarine movements, that information isn't going to be given.
Right. You mentioned the deadline of the 8th of August, which is the new deadline that Trump set for Putin to bring the war in Ukraine to an end. And you said he's going to basically blow through that. So is this a sort of tactic to increase pressure on Putin in the run up to that deadline?
Exactly. In a word, yes.
Right. And so also, I guess the other thing that's unusual about this is not just using using submarines as a sort of form of pressure, moving them around like chess pieces, but it's unusual that he actually announced it. So broadcasting that you're moving nuclear submarines around on your own sort of Truth Social, it is very performative, isn't it? And just to come back to what we were saying a few minutes ago, his communication style is chaotic, but it's quite effective. He's also said that Medvedev is, we have said in the Times that Medvedev is a bit of an internet loudmouth himself. So is this basically a war of words between two men sort of posturing rather than a genuine nuclear face-off between Russia and America?
Again, brilliant summary. And the answer again is yes. Okay. So we shouldn't... Simple as that. So don't get too worried.
Don't get too worried. Okay. I like the reassurance. You and Trump and Putin do have a strange sort of a friendship, don't they? But Medvedev is a very close ally of Putin. Does this put Putin's relationship with Trump under strain a bit?
I don't think it really makes much difference. I don't think Putin really has friends. He has associates who can use him. I suspect the same argument applies to Donald Trump. I really think this will blow over, and it may be used by either side to make an argument for how they react, but it won't be the reason for that reaction.
Okay, brilliant.
It's performative. It's performative.
Yeah, like so much.
Performatism, if that's the word, is essential for egos. And these are two gigantic egos.
Two big countries and some big egos to go with them. Thank you so much for your time this morning. It's wonderful to have your analysis. That's Russia and international security expert Ewan Grant. It's been a busy old week in politics, so let's dig in. Yeah. And I want to follow on straight really from that conversation I was having with Ewan about Donald Trump and the performative saber rattling of moving your nuclear submarines around. Yeah. So in the Sunday Times today, Katie Balls has written an amazing piece in which she highlights kind of what might seem at times like a stream of consciousness with absolutely no quality control, but it is also a device that allows Donald Trump to own the news cycle. Annika, coming to you first. I mean, Trump has completely upended how the White House communicates with the press and the public. Do you think for better or worse?
Well, it's gripping. I am absolutely gripped by it. I am the person who every evening now at 8 o'clock watches about 2 hours on BBC News Channel. Just usually there's a live press conference taken, but I'm completely gripped. And I've just heard Katie Balls, funnily enough, and Robert Armstrong on Radio 4. Robert famously invented taco. Trump always chickens out. And he said now it's the world always chickens out because...
It's Waco.
God. Where's it go? Wacko sounds
Waco,
better.
Yeah.
But it's this stream of this consciousness. It's just like sort of being live, isn't it? In a kind of WhatsApp group live stream, and he's the only one with the keyboard, and everyone else is on 1% battery, and they're trying to catch up, and it's absolute carnage, but. It's shocking that now commentators are saying it's working.
And it's compelling. I mean, John, he's jettisoned legacy media and he runs everything himself via Truth Social. And as Katie says in her piece, if you're a sort of new media organisation or a foreign journalist, actually it's easier to get into the White House press conferences than it used to be because he hates legacy media, as he calls it. So, I mean, in one way... there's more access than there was under Joe Biden, isn't there? We're seeing more of what's going on.
I mean, that wasn't hard,
Biden.
though, was it? When they had to hide the fact that Joe Biden was probably in intensive care. It was very difficult. And it's the polar opposite. I mean, it's funny how you just put inverted commas on legacy media, but not on Truth Social, because we're all becoming so immune to the idea that, because of course it's not true. I mean, it is truth. What is truth these days? And I just think what's happened is he is this sort of Gatling gun of madness and idiocy, and the world's media treats it as catnip. It's a little bit like having I'm seeing Starmer and his wife having to deal with a sort of slightly disgraceful teenage cousin who comes round to the house, and sort of you think, oh God, he'll be gone in a minute, but he's going to upset mad Aunt Dorothy, but we've got to just let it happen. And I think we've been rubbernecking him since 2016, and his genius, such as it is, I think what Katie alights upon really well in the article is just that sense that really nothing really detracts him from his stream of consciousness, and we are all kind of in awe of it, whether we should be, because there were so many lies, so many untruths, so many inaccurate statements that we can't keep up, because the media, legacy media, is so trained to sort of analyse something that we get stuck. And ultimately, where do we go from here? I guess the Epstein thing seems to be the only bit of kryptonite we've seen so far.
And that's not going away. It's an ongoing headache.
And that's so gripping, with Ghislaine just now shunted off to a rather lovely prison in Texas.
What a coincidence.
Isn't that strange and interesting? No, the whole Trump press conference, to my mind, sort of reminds me of a sort of flat pack furniture session. There's loud, everyone makes a mess. The only thing to do is to just leave it after a while and hope it stays standing, but it's not going to work ultimately. And you can just see the sort of chaos. And people do look as if they've just spent half an hour with IKEA, don't they?
Oh, yeah.
After a press conference.
Exhausted.
They're bemused, they're exhausted, some are crying, they're tearing their hair out.
Yeah. Sounds like the toddler's birthday party you were just telling me you went to yesterday. Is it okay if I say, Annika, that you did, your first words to me were that you were hungover after a 1-year-old's birthday party?
Well, I went to a 1-year-old's birthday party, and I swear a 2-year-old spiked my drink. Because
I can believe that.
I left crawling down the verge. Yeah.
Wow.
So, so anyway.
I mean, it was a 1-year-old who's related to you, though. So, there's some sort of investigations got happening within your own family.
A 1-year-old birthday party is similar bit to being in Trumpland. Do you remember the Truman Show, that film?
Yeah.
I always think Trumpland is like that, in that it's this sort of weird thing that happens every day. He talks on Air Force One, who talks by the helicopter in a press conference, and everyone scrambles around, sort of slightly crying.
Yes. Yes, I also think that there's because I think the Apprentice, the TV show, has so much to answer for on this, and that Trump has been able to lord it around the White House. Those Oval Office sessions have become like the boardroom, right? Yeah. But what's fascinating is, of course, the Apprentice is edited within an inch of its life to make it the sort of slick sheen show it is. What's fascinating is that, of course, there's no editor in real-time politics. So what we're getting is probably what the producers of The Apprentice have seen for about goodness knows how many years, but we're just having to put up with the sort of director's cut of the madness.
And it's sort of completely one personality, isn't it? It's just about Donald Trump.
Absolutely.
And, and then he sort of mentions Caroline Levitt, that quote. You've got an interview on Friday saying she's become a star. It's that face, it's that brain, it's those lips, the way they move. They move like she's a machine gun.
Yes, you see, machine gun. Like this is what he appreciates, that she's like him.
Yeah. But it's also that idea, that image. It's one of aggression and attack. But when you talk about the lack of editing, and on Monday, it seems about 14 years ago already, when Trump held his press conference at Turnberry with Keir Starmer. it was 90 minutes of a press conference. Yes. And I think, how many questions did Keir Starmer manage to get in? Maybe 2 or 3. Meanwhile, Trump, I'm going to take a deep breath here, compared himself to British farmers, called Sadiq Khan a nasty person who had done a terrible job and destroyed London, said Lady Starmer was a respected person all over the United States.
Where did that come from?
But he also said to Starmer, politics is pretty simple, and gave him some unsolicited advice to cut taxes, stay out of wars, and get tough on immigration if he wants to win elections.
And all Keir Starmer could say was, well, actually, Sadiq Khan is a friend of mine.
Yes, he sort of very timidly said that, didn't he?
He did reach across for a knee pat at that moment, though. But John, just how do you deal with people giving unsolicited advice, particularly when it comes to things like immigration, small boats, and politics being simple?
I'm kind of, I can't believe I'm saying this in a way, but I'm kind of with Keir Starmer on this, in that it's the very British thing to do. You either do a Zelensky, and you say, hang on a second, and then it all blows up, and before you know it, Trump's ordered half his nuclear fleet to surround the American Channel, as it'll probably be called soon. But if you're not doing that, really grinning and bearing it, which is sort of ironic and slightly even more cringy when it's in the UK. Yeah, it makes it extra awkward. But what else can you do? I'm in two minds with Starmer, because in one sense, if time proves that he is this kind of Trump whisperer, sort of unlikely but possibly true, in that he seems to, analysts are starting to say, well, actually the trade deal, maybe we came out of it better, and he's being softer to Britain than he is to many other countries. Maybe this softly approach is actually bearing some kind of fruit, and there's diplomatic benefits from the government's policy. However, he also resembles increasingly, I think, the minister from, do you know the movie In the Loop? Brilliant
yes.
film. The Tom Hollander character, who 1 minute says war is unforeseeable, next minute he says foreseeable. Does that mean it's inevitable? And he ends up saying it's evitable.
Oh no, but the poor guy.
Yes.
I mean, what can he do?
Well,
and it's no good them just saying, right, okay, everyone, brace yourself. There's only 3.5 years left, because there might not be. There might be. Not him, but there might be JD Vance. You know, this could run and run and run. So, you know, what can Starmer do? He's got to do what he's doing rather effectively, I have to say.
Do you think he's doing a good job of it?
I mean, there's no one looking at that thinking, oh, God, he's become Donald Trump's best friend. You're looking at it thinking, you know, poor bloke, what would I do in that position? You could only do what he's doing, which is just try and not create another catastrophe.